The human had been sitting in the assessment chair for 6 minutes before I noticed he was studying us back. I am Vethan Sarusk, Senior Adjudication Officer, 3rd Bench, Kelvorn 9 Classification Station. I have presided over 412 threat classification hearings in 11 years of service. I say this not to establish credentials, but to establish context. I have never before felt the need to explain how a hearing went wrong, because hearings by design cannot go wrong. The subject sits, we assess, we classify. The process moves in one direction only. I am writing this report because the Kelvorn 9 Tribunal Board has requested an explanation for why hearing KL 97741, a routine Tier 1 intake, assessment for a single unarmed human civilian, was suspended after 94 minutes. The threat classification was revised upward 4 separate times during the hearing itself, and why 3 of the 5 presiding judges have since filed requests for procedural review. The human's name, as given on intake, was Darian Mace. Age, 31 standard years. Occupation listed, logistics coordinator. He had been recovered from a disabled courier vessel in the Kelvorn Transit Corridor. No weapons, no military insignia, no contraband. Standard Tier 1 intake. I assigned it to myself as a training exercise for my 2 junior assessors, Prethovac and Jostle. Expected to last 40 minutes. He was cooperative from the moment the guards brought him in. Sat without instruction, folded his hands on the table, looked at the 5 of us on the bench with the mild, attentive expression of a man waiting for a connecting flight. I noted it as low affect, possible sedation, possible cultural norm. I logged it as a non-indicator and proceeded. We began with the standard Tier 1 cognitive battery. Prethovac administered the scenario sets, a series of resource allocation problems designed establish baseline reasoning and flag anomalous capability. The human answered each one correctly, not quickly, not slowly. The time the problems warranted. No flags. I was half-drafting the classification paperwork in my mind. Tier 1 benign, standard processing, 40 minutes. When Prethovac moved to the 4th scenario set, the 4th set is a pressure variant. 2 problems are presented simultaneously. The subject is told to solve the first. The second is a distractor, designed to bleed attention and degrade the first solution's quality. It is not a test of intelligence. It is a test of how a subject handles cognitive overload. The human looked at both problems. He solved the first in the expected window. Then he solved the second. Then he said, in a tone that was entirely conversational, "The second one is the decoy, isn't it? It's easier than the first. You're watching whether I ignore it or let it pull me." Prethovac looked at me. I told him to note it and continue. We moved to the behavioral scenarios. Judge Orelev, our specialist in threat vector profiling, administered this section. She presented a sequence of 12 conflict situations, each designed to surface one of 6 classified behavioral threat signatures. The human worked through them steadily. He flagged none of the 6 signatures. Orelev was moving to close the section when the human said, still in that same mild conversational tone, "The 7th scenario, the one with the 2 civilians and the burning corridor, you ran it twice. The second time the exit was on the opposite side. That's not a scenario. That's a consistency trap. You're checking whether I notice environmental changes under stress." Orelev stopped. She looked at me. I told her to note it and continue. I also quietly revised the classification upward to Tier 2 observation. A subject who identifies assessment architecture meta-assessment is not standard Tier 1 material. I told myself it was pattern recognition. Humans are known for it. The second story on any tribunal officer's intake training covers human pattern recognition. I filed it as a known trait, an expected outlier, and kept the hearing moving. We broke for 12 minutes at the 90-minute mark. During the break, the human was given water and escorted to a sanitation facility. Standard procedure. When he returned, he sat back down, folded his hands again, and said, "Before I had reopened the record, the guard rotation changed while I was in the corridor. Same species, different individual. The new one favors his left side. The access to the left of the main door hasn't been fully sealed. There's a gap at the lower seam, about 4 centimeters. The chamber was very quiet. Judge Prethovac, my junior assessor, said, 'That's the escape route survey.' I told Prethovac to be silent. I looked at the human. He looked back at me with the same mild, attentive expression, not smug, challenging. Genuinely calm, the way a person calm when they are explaining something obvious, he said, I'm not going to leave. I just noticed. It's hard not to. I revised the classification to Tier 3 monitored. I sent a quiet alert to the security station to seal the panel. What followed over the next 5:44 minutes, I will as clearly as I am able because I have played the session record 11 times, and I am still not entirely satisfied with my own account. We administered the advanced battery, problems reserved for Tier 3 and above, designed by the joint Kelvorn threat modeling team over a period of 30 years to surface specific high-capability signatures. The human worked through them. He did not solve all of them. He struggled visibly with the third and seventh, made errors on the ninth, and said so plainly when he did. What he also did on 6 separate occasions was answer the problem and then describe, aloud, unprompted, in the same mild voice. A feature of the problem's design that revealed something about the design team's assumptions, not about the answer, about us, about what we were trying to find and why, and what our instruments were built to miss. The fourth time he did it, Liv quietly put down her assessment rod. The sixth time, Judge Solvath, our most senior panelist, 2 years of service, leaned forward and said, "What are you doing?" The human considered the question, he said, "Answering your questions. And also, I'm sorry, I know this is probably rude, trying to understand the shape of what you're afraid of," Solvath said. "You're constructing a threat profile of this panel." The human said, "Isn't that what you're doing to me?" I suspended the hearing at that point, formally. On record. We reconvened after 30 minutes of private deliberation. There was significant disagreement on the bench about how to proceed. Liv argued for immediate escalation to Tier 5 and full military referral. Prethovac, to his credit, argued that the subject had committed no act of aggression and that escalating on the basis of cognitive performance alone required specific charter justification. Solvath said nothing for 27 of those 30 minutes, and then said quietly that the problem was not the human's capability. Problem was that the human's capability was not a performance. He was not showing us something. He was doing something he could not stop doing. A person with acute hearing cannot stop registering sound. We returned to the chamber. I informed the human that the hearing was being classified and referred for senior review. He nodded. He said, "Thank you for telling me directly." I asked him, because I needed to understand and because I could not think of a protocol reason not to ask, whether he had known from the beginning what we were doing. He thought about it honestly, he said. Not the specific tests, no. The shape of it, yes, pretty quickly. You're trying to figure out what I'm capable of. That's the same thing I'd be doing if I were you. He paused. He said, I still don't know what you're most afraid of finding. I filed the final classification that evening. Tier 4, escalated review, pending senior tribunal. In the notes field, a field I have never used in 11 years. Because assessments speak for themselves. I wrote one sentence. The subject completed a threat assessment of this panel faster than this panel, pleaded one of him, using only the hearing itself as his instrument, and he did it without trying. I don't know what tier covers that.